Welcome back to the channel. I'm Peter Melker, a Dallas-based DP and Gaffer. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I maintain and bring stands like this back to life. This one's covered in rust. I purchased it recently with rust already on it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up, make it look like new, and then throw it onto the van. So first off, we're going to take a look at what you need to get this process going. It's just a few things and a lot of elbow grease, but what you can do is save a lot of money by maintaining your stands. And you could save some money by purchasing some that need a little bit of elbow grease, and you could bring them back to life. So I got this information from two other YouTubers, people that I really look up to and watch their channels all the time. First one is Matthew's Grip, and we had Martin explain some of the stuff he likes to use and he recommends for his stands. And then obviously we have Andrew Locke in Australia, which talks about how he takes care of some of the rust after it's a shoot that's by the beach, near sand and things like that. So I took both of those videos, combined them, and that's my method today. So I want to give a big shout out to those guys. So first off, since we have a lot of rust and pitting here, what we're going to need is WD-40. Now Martin says no, do not use WD-40 because it attracts dirt, but this is step one for us. We have to put it on to get rid of this surface rust that's on this stand. Then we'll go into the regular maintaining phase and use some silicone lubricant to take care of cleaning things up and having things lubed and ready to go. And then when it comes to threads and things like that, we always go with the original super white to make the threads hold up really well. But before we do any of that, we have to get rid of the grime, the rust, and all that just oxidation that happens over time. It's hard to avoid. Even on my van, I keep stuff really well maintained, and you can get that surface rust from just one shoot where it rained, where it's humid, and the temperature changes. So let's dive right in and get things going. So to get started on the rust removal, we're going to need some steel wool. I use the Final Finish steel wool. It is a quadruple zero finish. And then one of the things that we commonly have around the house is WD-40, and we'll have cans that are old, that are beat up. And what I did is I actually got a little container and I got a nail, and I took this nail and I punctured the actual WD-40 because it just wasn't really pressurized. It was clogged up, wasn't working, but there was still liquid in there. So I got a nail, got a hammer, bam, bam, and I punctured it. Don't drill it, because if you drill it, you'll actually knock loose little fine pieces of metal into the mixture, and then you're just going to scratch stuff up worse than you already would. So a little puncture helps. Be careful, it may be pressurized. Make sure you're not trying to puncture it from below where it sprays you. Wear glasses. I'm wearing safety glasses, sunglasses right now for this whole process because I need my eyes for work. So that's a good system. And then you just pour it into the container, and you have, look, there's still more coming out. You'll have plenty to use if you have a bunch of old bottles laying around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the steel wool and then apply it right here and start working it, getting some elbow grease in, and I can already see that it is working. So it's going to take off that surface rust. Now if it's really deep inside, it's not going to be as easy, as simple to do, but it's just elbow grease. It's just going to take time, and you're going to have to maybe hit it a couple times as you do it to get the results you want. You could use rags, you could use different things to wipe off to check your progress. It's going to be messy. That's why I have rubber gloves on, because doing this all day can create a mess. But if you look at the stands themselves when you purchase them, you can see how bad the rust is. If it's just, you know, mostly surface rust, it's great. And with this fine finish steel wool, it's not going to dig in too much and scrape up your stands. Now, what's already happening is the rust is digging into the finish. So you adding a light scuff to the surface to help remove that rust, which that WD-40 does, will help you over time, and it won't hurt the stand as much as leaving the rust and letting it continue to get bad. So that's what it takes, is just a lot of elbow grease. Already, from what I'm seeing, we're getting some great results. I mean, we've got some shine on this compared to the other portions of it. Even right here on the front, you can see that the front is very rusty, and then this surface is nice and clean. And that's all it takes to get stuff going and bring it back to a workable new finish. What you want to do is you want to divide and conquer when working on the stand. So instead of just working on one surface, you have multiple surfaces on these stands that could be done at the same time because they're the same direction and angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work the top and both sides of these and work that at the same time to kind of help the process. If I'm already putting the elbow grease in, I might as well. Another thing you can do if you really have to and it's really got a lot of damage to it is you could take everything apart and do it by hand by removing each portion, and we'll see how things look. That may be something that needs to be done, or it may not need to be done. So that's just part of the decision making you have to make, and that's something that you can do on your own, but you will have to adjust the stand, move things up and down, spread it open, maybe set it off to the side and work it as well. I'm doing it on this table so I could just show you guys what I have going on, but more than likely I'm gonna have to switch over and set the stand up and make things happen with it set up. It will be a lot easier. So actually, let's move to that. This is a lot easier than the table. I think the table will be good for some of the lower points or maybe some of the detailed stuff, but just setting the stand up like it's supposed to be set up, it makes it a lot easier. So now I could actually access all three sides, all four sides. So that makes it even better. So I'm able to just work it like this over and over again to make sure we get all that rust off. So that's the really important thing, is you want to make sure that you work it just right and you just continually move it over and over and over again to get that rust off. All right, there may be some spots like right in this area that may have deeper pitting. So what I have is a little bit more coarse of a steel wool. And if you notice these side by side, one of them is a little more coarse than the other. So this is the quadruple zero finish here, and then this one right here is just a different one. I don't even know what it is, but don't go with too coarse of one because then you're just gonna create scratches in your stand. After you do the coarse one, follow up and do it with the finer one to kind of finish it off, and that's the process that I've been using lately. So let's see if this will work right here. I'm going to get a little bit of our juices on there, and that's our WD-40. I'm gonna go here, and then I'm going to start rubbing into it and see what kind of results we get. And I mean, immediately there's a change, which is really great. And you want to just keep working it. And since this is round, you want to work your way around, and you just want to do this over and over and over again as much as you can. And sometimes you rotate as you're doing it so you can get all the way around, because your hand may not reach all the way around. So if you reach like this and just kind of get all the way around and change your position, it can really help get the whole stand cleaned up and rust free. Let's see what it looks like when we wipe it off. So let's get a nice clean rag and just give it a rub down, make sure we get all that WD-40 off and the rust, and see what it looks like. And we're already seeing improvements. I'm gonna continue getting it here. Let me try the coarser one. There should be enough WD-40 where it should be okay. And let's see how that does it. And like I said, you want to try first to go on the spot with the finer finish steel wool. And if that doesn't work, then you could hit it with the coarser stuff and then follow back up with the finer stuff. And make sure you're overlapping your areas that you're working, because if you stop here and you try to stop there, you're not going to get good coverage. So you want to make sure that you cover everything thoroughly and don't miss any spots. The good thing about this is when you get them all done and you notice, oh man, I missed a spot here, you can just kind of go back and just touch up the little spots that you missed and get good coverage there. That looks pretty shiny to me. What do you guys think? All right, so now we're going to go into this kind of more complicated section of the stand. You don't have the long, smooth sections where it's easier to work. So there may be some tight spots that you need to get into. So first off, I'll get some of my older pieces that I have of the steel wool and just try to work that area. And you're gonna have to get in there with your hands and fingers, just kind of working those spots. Could be a little difficult. This takes a little bit more time and effort, but you just want to make sure you work those areas. And I have also been working on the actual knobs themselves. So you want to just go ahead and polish the knob, because it does actually get some oxidation. So it's aluminum, and aluminum doesn't rust, but it oxidizes. And what oxidation looks like, it gets kind of powdery. So you get that kind of white powder on it, and you want to take off that oxidation and clean this stuff up to kind of prevent it from doing it anymore and giving it a nice look. So we're getting into these spots here. And like I said, I'm using the just kind of beat up and rough steel wool that I have from, you know, cleaning everything else up. So let's see what we're getting like in there. And then if we need to get into tight areas, I just grabbed a stick, and I took the stick and I wrapped some steel wool around it so then I could get into the tighter areas. You could use a pencil, you could use whatever you want. I wouldn't use anything metal, because then if it kind of fights its way through, you're just gonna be counterintuitive and you're gonna scratch up your whole stand. But a little twig, a pencil, you could even grab one of those chopsticks from when you order some takeout. That's real simple, and get into the spots and clean everything up. And the same applies to anything that's casted. So you got your cast molded fittings and clamps and bits and bobs. You want to clean that up, and let's see what it looks like now. I think we cleaned it up pretty good. I mean, it could probably use a little more, so maybe I'll go in with a nicer piece that's bigger, kind of take care of this space, make it look a lot better. And now that's how it looks finished up. So just takes time. I spent about, I mean, honestly, to make it look really nice and clean, about an hour per stand when it's in real bad shape. Now, if it just has a little bit of surface rust, you caught it real early, this is probably 10 years of rust that's just been collecting from condensation. But if you get something that maybe got a little bit recently or something like that, honestly, sometimes it's something as simple as just a rag with some WD-40 or some alcohol, and you wipe it down and it can work. But that's not always the case. If that doesn't work, you know, do some of these steps and get everything cleaned up, because the more you maintain your stands, the longer they last. And I will tell you, grip equipment is becoming more and more expensive every single day, and it's better to maintain than to buy all over again. All right, so we went ahead and took care of cleaning up the surfaces, trying to remove as much rust as we could. It's your discretion on how much you want to do, how far you want to go, and how shiny you want to polish your stands. Totally up to you. But next, we're going to move on to the knobs that have the threads. And what you'll notice is the older ones will have some white crust and gunk on them. And sometimes you'll even get some rust inside there as well. May be hard to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a toothbrush, and then I'm going to apply some silicone lubricant. You could do WD-40, but Martine from Matthew says don't use WD-40 there because it does attract some gunk, but we do have a solution for that. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this on the toothbrush, foam it up. It will make a mess, and that's why we haven't done our last step, which we'll talk about in a moment. But then we're going to apply this here and try to clean it up. It will make a mess. It will splatter everywhere, so be careful. I do have the macro shot there, so I don't want to make too much of a flicker on there. And then what I'm going to do is I will take a clean bit of steel wool, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to work it into those little crevices and threads of that knob. And that's going to take away that rust that's in there. There was little rust pits, as you can see in the macro shot, and I want to eliminate those. So I'm going to clean it up. And then our final step that we'll do once that's dried out and taken care of is we will apply acetone and clean that up to get it prepped for our final lubrication for our maintenance of our stands. So one thing that's really important is everything goes downhill. A lot of things go downhill, don't need to say what. So start from the top and work your way down, so if the gunk comes down, you don't have to re-clean and redo stuff and contaminate things. Also, what's really cool about some stand manufacturers like Matthews, you'll have things like these O-rings, and they'll bust over time and get damaged, and they're actually in between the risers on the stand, and they allow for a softer close so they don't smash down so hard. Well, you can actually order those up and get replacements. Now, you get some of those cheaper Fonsuzi stands or whatever you order off Amazon that are no name brand that change every week. You can't get replacement parts and O-rings, and yes, you could really research and try to find them, but it's easier just to go to Matthews and get what you need, easy to order and replace. So we're going to take some acetone, and I'm going to apply it to this rag. Be very careful. Acetone is very flammable and very combustible. Also, when you're done with these rags, do not throw them into a bucket with multiple rags, because you mix a lot of chemicals and solvents, you could have a fire. So we've scrubbed all these threads, and what we're going to do is we're going to wipe them down and make sure they're nice and clean and get all that gunk out of them. So nice and clean, looking spick and span. And then we're going to apply this acetone to everything. And what that will do is it's going to remove all of that oiliness from the WD-40 and make it dry to the touch, so it doesn't have that oilness to it that we don't want, because that attracts dirt. Just pay attention to these threads, make sure you got them good, because our next step will be applying our long-term lubricant to them, which I'll show you guys in a moment. But yeah, wipe everything down, make sure it's nice and clean and doesn't have any of that oiliness that you get from the WD-40. Now we're going to apply super white. This goop here is very similar to what comes from factory. It may actually be the same thing. You're going to use a nice clean brush. These are kind of just scrap brushes that I got off Amazon. I'll put links down below for everything, but you want to apply a little bit of that. I mean, it goes a long way, so don't go too crazy with it. You apply a little bit, and then we're going to apply it to the threads and try to get it all the way around and work it in there. And then we're going to twist, and then we're gonna release it, and we wanna make sure it's in there nice and good. And you can apply as much as you want. The thing is it will kind of attract stuff and get messy. So right after you do these, there may be a lot of cleanup that you have to do, but just apply it, twist it in, twist it out, and what it should do, should make it real simple, where now you thread in easily and it threads out. Do that a few times and you'll get ready to go, and just apply that to all your threads that you have. Now we need to take care of the risers. So the risers are in really good shape, and the reason is this stand was really rusted, except it has those rubber bushings that go on each riser, and that actually sealed up the stand and prevented the condensation from working its way in and damaging the riser. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Martine's recommendation and use this stuff right here. It's LPS heavy duty silicone lubricant, and it is the platinum grade, because we like platinum here. So we're going to use this. I'm going to apply it to a rag. Now don't mix your WD-40 rag with your other rags and this and that. Separate them out so you don't cross-contaminate stuff and cause bigger issues. But I'm going to apply a little to the rag, and then I'm going to work this shaft up and down and make sure we get it nice and clean, and it looks really good. And that's done. We have the lubricant applied. This is better than WD-40, because Martine always says WD-40 attracts dirt and gunk, but this stuff does a really good job. So that's a final finish on that. So we could put that down, and then we'll go to the next one, bring it up, and we'll do the same thing for this one. And I'll just apply a little bit more onto this rag, and then we're going to take care of it. Now, if you do notice any rust, what you want to do is you want to do the same process as we did earlier and take care of that rust by doing the WD-40 and the steel wool. And then you want to apply acetone to clean it up, and then you want to apply your lubricant in those steps. Acetone is to prep the surface for your final application of your lubricants that you want to apply. And now these are looking just like new. Took a little bit of elbow grease. Could you use some power tools to speed up the process? Of course, but not everyone has access to them. So I wanted to show you what a little bit of elbow grease and some steel wool, maybe some WD-40 could do for you. Now, you don't have to maintain your stands like this every week, every month. It depends on the area that you're in. If you're in an area that's close to the beach, that has a lot of salt content in the air, you're going to need to do this a lot more often. If the humidity is high, that's another thing. But some people may need to do this just once a year, maybe even every 2 years, or some people may have to do it every month. But check on your stands, keep an eye on them, and maintain them to keep them going a lot longer. I'll have links to every single thing that I used, all the little products and everything, down in the description below to make it easier for you. If you found this video useful, give it a like. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. I have a lot of great content like this. I teach a little on this channel. I go behind the scenes and I show you some of my final work. Thank you so much to everyone that watched, and I'll see you on the next one.